Florida, member of Congress, Republican Randy Fine. Washington, Democratic Representative Adam Smith. They're even standing next to each other. You look great. You look great standing together. Thank you both for your patience. Thank you for working with me today. I appreciate it. So, Randy, do you share my frustration that this Epstein thing won't go away because there was a promise made that now people feel isn't being kept, and Kash Patel seems to be putting it on the judges and putting it on Acosta, not himself?
Well, I do share a frustration. I did 81 events in my district over the August recess. 70 of them I took questions, and I didn't get a single question from one of my constituents about the Epstein files. And my events were with hard-right Republicans. They were bipartisan. Even halfway through, I would point out in my events that no one had asked me about the Epstein files, and still no one asked. What my constituents are worried about are crime and the budget deficit, making America safe again, and focusing on international relations. So what frustrates me about this is also, if this was so important, Joe Biden had 4 years to release the files. This newfound discovery of interest, I think the whole thing smacks of naked partisanship, and I'm ready to solve America's problems.
Well, listen, I love where you're coming from, Randy. So does Adam. Adam makes this point all the time when he's on the show. He's always batting my questions aside and saying, why don't we talk about what actually matters? But let's be very clear. It was the Trump administration, it was Trump people who are now in his cabinet who made Epstein relevant, just to be honest. Now, Adam, that said, Democrats have also taken up the mantle.
If I might, first of all, I agree completely with what he just said. Those are the issues we should be focusing on. But let's be 100% clear on why we're focusing on Epstein. It's because of Donald Trump and Kash Patel and the MAGA supporters that they whipped into a frenzy when Biden was president. That is why we are focused on Epstein, because they made all these wild accusations about Biden and everything else. It was going to be revealed. All these names were going to be on a list. It's part of the massive effort at disinformation on so many issues, from immigrants eating dogs and cats in Ohio on down the road. Yeah, I completely agree. This is not what we should be talking about. So the question is, why was Donald Trump and all of his supporters, including Kash Patel, spending so much time talking about it before they ran, and then when they get into office, they got nothing? So they're the ones who stirred up this ridiculous situation. So I think they should be held accountable for it.
I mean, Chris, isn't it possible that they got into office, they saw the files, and they said, this is where we are? I think that's what Kash Patel said today. So there's a belief they get access to the information, and now they did exactly what you just said.
But there was no belief. Before they got into office, if they hadn't seen the files, they had some very specific accusations based on this massive amount of ignorance that they had. There were all these Democrats involved in a pedophile ring, and they were covering up for all these people. So if they had said, look, we don't know what's in the Epstein files, we want to get in office, we want to find out, then you'd have a point. But that's not what they did.
Yeah.
They said they had stuff that they did not have.
Right. So we are where we are. Kash Patel did it.
And seeing what's there.
Well, listen, I would thank them, too, if they hadn't made promises before they even looked. But, Randy, you are right that there are things that matter much more. This is the first time I've seen a tragedy in American society, and I think Charlie Kirk being murdered is a tragedy, where there's almost no motivation for healing. I want to talk to you fellas about this. What do you think we should do now, after the fact? Randy?
Well, I think first... Oh, sorry.
No, well, look, I think we've got to say with one voice that you cannot settle political disputes with guns. We have done that twice in our nation's history. The American Civil War was a civil war between British subjects, and then obviously in the 1860s, we had our actual American Civil War. We do not want to end up in that place. And so I have people I have huge disagreements with, but I do not want them to be hurt. And so the people who are trying to justify this, we need to speak with one voice and say it's not okay. And if you're in a position of authority because you work for the government or you're funded by by the government or you have a government-funded license, you've got to go. And that's what I've been working on the last few days.
Yeah, and I think we have spoken with one voice. I think part of the problem within the media is you'll pull out someone on social media who made a comment, but the number of Democrats, including me, immediately after we learned of the death, who put out statements absolutely condemning it. Democrats have absolutely condemned this, and clearly saying violence has no place in public discourse. Completely what Representative Fine just said. I think we have spoken with
If I could disagree, I think the vast majority of elected Democrats have. We've got a couple in Florida who didn't. They're not in Congress. But I think the bigger issue is with sort of the masses. I mean, a meaningful percentage of people who describe themselves as very liberal say assassinations are okay. It's not a majority, but it's also not 1%.
I really disagree.
But it's true.
No, it's not. Because what Republicans have been trying to argue since Charlie Kirk's brutal assassination is that somehow this is a Democrat problem. And that's where we lose what Chris is talking about here. Any sort of bipartisan consensus. You know, we've had the president himself, when he made his announcement, he put it all on the hands of the leftists. Yeah. There is, and Chris, you and I have talked about this before, there's folks right and left. We ought to condemn them both. Not just have Republicans condemning the Democrats and then conveniently forgetting about the folks on the right who have either advocated for or committed acts of violence. It should be both, not just one.
These can be consistent. There is bipartisan consensus, but if it's 20% of liberals, that's not the consensus. But 20% is still a large percentage of the people. So both these things can be true. The overwhelming majority of Democrats can speak out against the violence, but there can be also a large number of them that are saying it's okay.
There is also a large number of Republicans who have made it clear. When Nancy Pelosi, when her house was invaded, was attacked, they were making jokes about it. Governor Youngkin, not some random guy on the internet who happens to claim he's a liberal. Governor Youngkin, the day after Paul Pelosi was hit in the head with a hammer, when a guy broke in to try and kill both Nancy and Paul, made a joke about it. So there's plenty on both sides. We should stay in the middle and say this is wrong, well, I'll tell you, no matter who's saying it. And the second a Republican says, well, it's wrong because Democrats say it, or a Democrat says it's wrong because Republicans say it, then we lose that consensus that we need to get.
And look, all political violence is wrong. It doesn't matter if it's on the left or on the right.
100%. And I think that the best thing you can do is what you're doing right now. You're standing next to each other. You don't agree about things, but you are disagreeing with decency. And you're talking about doing the work of the American people and that you don't want this to be everything that our government is about. And for that, I appreciate you both. And when the fog clears and we get back to figuring out what to do about tariffs, what to do about what you were just talking about, Randy, I want to see what the Attorney General decides to act on, Ms. Bondi, about going after people who say things she doesn't like. Last time I checked, the government can't be in the speech regulation business. So I look forward to you guys doing the job and us talking about it here. Thank you both, fellas. I appreciate you being on together. Adam, thank you. Randy, thank you.
Thank you, Chris.